What are they hiding? Why are they refusing to tell us what the law says they must tell everyone? News 13 investigative reporter Larry Barker has discovered that many state officials, including some at the very highest level, are breaking a law that's designed to prevent crooked deals and corruption.
The government officials around this table are charged with safekeeping New Mexico's $15 billion investment portfolio. But there's something wrong here. The State Investment Council's newest member, Harold Lavender, has slipped up. So did Public Regulation Commissioner Ben Hall and Supreme Court Justice Edward Chavez. What do all these guys have in common? According to the Secretary of State's office, they've all violated New Mexico's Financial Disclosure Act. It's a state statute that requires government officials to disclose their finances, investments, and business dealings so the public can be informed of any conflict of interest. A 3-month-long News 13 investigation found more than 150 state officials failed to comply with the law. They include judges, elected officials, and scores of high-ranking appointed board and commission members.
Financial disclosure is a requirement. Anyone who is appointed is required to file within 30 days of their appointment with the Secretary of State.
Diana Duran is New Mexico's Secretary of State.
New Mexicans have a right to know and should care that they have as much information as possible about their elected or appointed officials. It's important to their everyday lives. They're affected by the decisions that are made by these officials.
Senator Dee Dee Feldman has been a longtime advocate for governmental accountability.
The Financial Disclosure Act and the forms that we fill out are the only way that the public has to know whether there is conflict of interest in terms of our professions, our financial interests, and what we are doing in the public name.
Say, for example, you want to see if Governor Martinez has any outside business interests. Well, she doesn't. It's all right here on the Secretary of State's website. Perhaps you'd like to know about any real estate owned by the Honorable Charles Daniels, Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court. Don't bother looking for an answer. According to the Secretary of State's office, the Chief Justice did not do his duty by failing to file the required financial disclosure. Why not? We don't know. The Honorable Justice Daniels did not return our phone call. Are judges of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals, are they required to file financial disclosure statements?
Yes, they are.
Compliance with the Financial Disclosure Act is mandatory. Willful violation of the law is punishable by as much as a year in jail. Public officials who don't comply can be liable for fines up to $5,000. Among those who are in violation, according to the Secretary of State, Western New Mexico University Regents Charles Randy Briggs and Tony Trujillo. Eastern New Mexico University Regent Marshall Stinnett. Some members of the Law Enforcement Academy. 6 members of the State Lottery. Regents with the Museum of New Mexico. Trustees of the Natural History Museum. And 2 members of the Parole Board. The list goes on and on. For a board or commission member, compliance with the Act is a condition for keeping your appointed job. Fail to file and technically, you're out. State board members are appointed by the governor.
How does that happen? People aren't taking it seriously. Many of them have been from the previous administration to boards and commissions that have been serving for several years, and they're not taking it seriously. They simply don't think it's important, and it's also not being enforced by the Secretary of State.
According to the Secretary of State, even New Mexico's top law enforcement official, Attorney General Gary King, dropped the ball on compliance. But hold on here. The AG says he personally hand-delivered his report in January. And then there's State Treasurer James Lewis. Secretary of State records show Lewis also failed to file, but Lewis did file, and he can prove it. The Treasurer's report was received by the Secretary of State on January 12th, and then they lost it. The Lewis document is not the only one the Secretary of State's office misplaced. Our investigation finds there are so many pieces of paper filed here, they can't keep track of them all. We have seen critically important documents misfiled, misplaced, or simply lost.
Thanks to the research of your team, we've been made aware of a couple of areas that we need to correct, and we have done that. Now, having said that, we do acknowledge that we still have a lot of work to do.
It's not acceptable. They have to really be better at making sure that every document that's taken is file stamped so that the individual has proof that they've done it, so that they aren't suffering a consequence later.
Part of the problem is that no one in state government has a complete list of just who is required to file under the Financial Disclosure Act.
We are working diligently to assure that those who are not compliant, that we will work with them to become compliant.
This is a law that is required and has penalties for not doing so. If you choose not to comply with the law, to fill these documents and file them with the Secretary of State, I'll be happy to ask the Secretary of State to enforce them to the letter of the law, and with all the civil penalties that come with it, and frankly, that you no longer get to serve.
For those officials that have not posted their financial information, or perhaps they've submitted it and it has not been posted, the public is in the dark.
Larry Barker, KRQE News 13.
The governor is giving state appointees who have not filed their disclosure forms 30 days to get it done, or she says there will be consequences.